The alarm was supposed to be fake. That was what Jake kept telling himself as red lights flashed across the walls of Horizon Base. He stood in the training room with his squad, all of them still holding dummy weapons that could not fire real shots. Just 5 minutes ago, they had been laughing about how easy the drill was going. Now, nobody was laughing. Cadet Emma Collins was the first to notice something was wrong. She pointed at the observation window where the stars should have been calm and quiet. Instead, dozens of dark shapes were moving against the blackness of space. Ships, alien ships. They were heading straight toward the station. "That is not part of the simulation," she said. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see fear in her eyes. Captain Daniel, their instructor, pressed his hand against his earpiece. His face went pale. Jake had never seen the captain look scared before. The man had fought in 3 different wars and had scars on his arms to prove it. But right now, he looked like someone had just told him the worst news of his life. "All cadets drop your training gear," Captain ordered. "This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. We have unknown hostile vessels approaching the station." Sam Harper, the biggest member of their squad, dropped his dummy rifle on the floor. "Sir, what do we do?" Before the captain could answer, the station shook with a terrible sound. The floor jumped beneath their feet, and Jake grabbed onto a nearby rail to keep from falling. Somewhere in the distance, metal screamed as it was torn apart. The lights flickered once, twice, and then switched to dim emergency mode. "Boarding pods," Captain said. "They are attaching to the hull. Everyone follow me to the shelter area. Move now." The squad ran after their instructor through the narrow corridors of the station. Jake stayed at the back, making sure nobody fell behind. Lily, their communications expert, was struggling to keep up. She was small and not as fast as the others. Jake grabbed her arm and helped her run faster. They were halfway to the shelter when another explosion hit. This one was closer. The ceiling above them cracked, and a chunk of metal fell down. Jake pulled Lily out of the way just in time, but Captain was not so lucky. The metal struck him across the head and shoulders, and he collapsed to the ground without making a sound. "Captain," Brooks ran to the fallen instructor and checked his pulse. "He is alive, but he is out cold. We need to get him to medical." Emma looked down the corridor in both directions. "Medical is on the other side of the station. We will never make it carrying him." Jake felt his heart pounding in his chest. He was 19 years old. He had been training to be a soldier for less than 2 years. He was not ready for this. None of them were ready for this. But when he looked at his squad, he saw them all staring at him, waiting for him to decide what to do. He took a deep breath. "Sam, you carry the captain. We find the nearest room with a lock and we secure ourselves inside. Then we figure out what is happening." Sam nodded and lifted Captain over his shoulder like the man weighed nothing. They moved quickly and quietly until they found a storage room. Once inside, Jake locked the door and Lily immediately went to work on a computer terminal in the corner. "I can access the security cameras from here," she said. Her fingers moved fast across the screen. "Give me a minute." While they waited, Emma checked their supplies. They had nothing. Training gear, water bottles, and emergency rations. That was all. If enemies came through that door, they had no way to fight back. The screen in front of Lily lit up with camera feeds from around the station. What they saw made Jake feel sick. Large reptilian creatures in dark armor were marching through the corridors. They stood almost 7 feet tall and carried weapons that glowed with blue energy, and they were killing everyone they found. "Those are," Emma whispered. "My father told me about them before he died. They are conquerors. They have taken over dozens of planets in the outer systems." Shook his head. "Why are they here? Earth has never had contact with them." Lily pulled up more information on her screen. "They are jamming all communications. No signals are going in or out of the station. Earth does not know we are under attack." Jake watched the camera feeds with growing horror. Adult soldiers, trained fighters with real weapons, were being cut down like they were nothing. The moved with brutal efficiency. They did not take prisoners. They did not show mercy. Every human they found was killed on the spot. "We have to do something," Sam said. His voice was shaking. "We cannot just hide here and watch them kill everyone." "What can we do?" asked. "We are just cadets. We do not even have real weapons." Jake looked at his squad, Emma with her sharp mind and tactical knowledge, Sam with his incredible strength, Lily with her genius for technology, with his pilot skills. They were young. They were scared. But they were also the only ones left who could fight. "The armory," Jake said slowly. "It is 2 levels down from here. Real weapons, real ammunition. If we can get there, we can arm ourselves." Emma studied the camera feeds. "There are between us and the armory. We would have to get past them." "We know this station better than they do," Jake replied. "We trained here for months. We know every shortcut, every maintenance tunnel, every hidden path. They are invaders. They are walking blind." Lily looked up from her screen. "He is right. I can guide us through the back routes. We can avoid most of their patrols." For a long moment, nobody spoke. They all knew what Jake was suggesting. He was asking them to go to war, real war, not a simulation, not a training exercise, the kind of war where people died. Sam gently set Captain down on the floor and stood up straight. "I did not join the military to hide in a closet while aliens murder innocent people." Nodded. "Same, let us do this." Emma checked her empty training rifle and tossed it aside. "Lead the way, Jake." Jake moved to the door and listened for sounds outside. The corridor was quiet for now. He looked back at his squad one more time. They were just kids, but today they would have to become soldiers. "Stay close," he said. "Stay quiet, and whatever happens, we stick together." He opened the door and they stepped out into the red-lit hallway. Somewhere on the station, an alien army was waiting. They did not know it yet, but they were about to meet the most dangerous enemy they had ever faced. Human teenagers with nothing left to lose. The maintenance tunnels were dark and narrow. Jake led his squad through the tight spaces, following Lily's whispered directions. She had memorized the station layout during her first week of training, and now that knowledge was keeping them alive. Every few minutes, they heard heavy footsteps above them, soldiers searching for survivors. Emma crawled behind Jake, her breathing controlled and steady. She had not said much since they left the storage room, but Jake could tell something was eating at her. When they stopped to rest in a small junction, he moved close to her. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Emma stared at the metal wall in front of her. "My father died fighting 3 years ago during a border skirmish in the outer colonies. They told us he was a hero. They gave us a medal and a folded flag." She paused. "I joined the military because I wanted to make sure no one else lost their father like I did, and now they are here, on our doorstep." Jake did not know what to say. He had grown up in a military family too, but he had never lost anyone to war. His father and mother were both alive, probably watching the news back on Earth without any idea that their son was fighting for his life. "We are going to stop them," Jake said. It sounded foolish even as the words left his mouth. 5 teenagers against an alien invasion force, but Emma looked at him and nodded, and that was enough. Lily signaled for them to move again. They crawled for another 10 minutes until they reached a vent that opened into a hallway near the armory. Jake peered through the metal grate and saw 2 soldiers standing guard outside the armory door. They were even bigger up close. Their scales were dark green, almost black, and their eyes glowed with a faint yellow light. "2 guards," Jake whispered back to the others. "We need to take them out quietly." Sam moved forward. "I can handle them, just get me close enough." Grabbed his arm. "Are you crazy? Those things are twice your size." Sam smiled. It was a sad smile, the kind someone makes when they know they might not survive what comes next. "My grandfather used to say that size does not matter in a fight. Heart matters, and right now my heart is very angry." They formed a plan. Lily would create a distraction using the station's speaker system. When the guards moved to investigate, Sam would attack from behind. It was simple and dangerous, and it was the only chance they had. Lily hacked into a nearby terminal and sent a burst of static through the speakers down the hall. The guards turned their heads, confused by the noise. One of them walked toward the sound, leaving his partner alone. Sam moved like a shadow. For a big man, he could be incredibly quiet when he needed to be. He came up behind the remaining guard and wrapped his arms around its neck. That was strong, but Sam was stronger than he looked. He squeezed until the alien stopped moving and lowered it gently to the floor. The other guard heard the struggle and turned back. It raised its weapon and aimed at Sam. But Emma was faster. She had grabbed a metal pipe from the tunnel, and she threw it with perfect accuracy. The pipe struck this hand and knocked the weapon away. Before the alien could react, Jake and tackled it together. The three of them crashed to the floor in a mess of arms and legs and scales. Pinned the creature's arms while Jake pressed his knee against its throat. "Do not move," Jake said through gritted teeth. The stared at him with those glowing yellow eyes, and then it did something unexpected. It laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that vibrated through its chest. "Children," the alien said in broken human language, "you send children to fight us. Your species is weaker than we thought." Jake pressed harder. "This child just put you on the ground. Think about that." The stopped laughing. Sam came over and knocked it unconscious with a single punch. They dragged the bodies into a side room and then entered the armory. Inside, racks of weapons lined the walls. Real rifles, real pistols, real ammunition. Jake had trained with these weapons before, but always under supervision, always with safety protocols. Now there were no instructors, no rules, just 5 young soldiers and an enemy that wanted them dead. Each member of the squad grabbed what they needed. Jake took a standard assault rifle and extra magazines. Emma chose a precision rifle for long-range shooting. Sam picked up the heaviest weapon in the room, a portable cannon that most adults could barely lift. Lily took a small pistol and a bag full of electronic equipment, found a set of grenades and strapped them to his belt. "Now what?" asked as he checked his weapons. "We are armed, but we are still outnumbered by about 1,000 to 1. Jake walked to a computer terminal and pulled up a map of the station. Red dots showed the location of forces. There were so many of them. They had taken over almost every section. But there was one area that remained clear: the medical bay. "Lily, are there any survivors in medical?" Lily accessed the cameras. The screen showed a group of wounded adults huddled in the medical bay. They were alive but injured, too hurt to fight, and soldiers were moving toward their location. "They will be there in 10 minutes, Lily said. "If we do not do something, those people are dead." Emma loaded her rifle. "Then we have 9 minutes to get there first." They left the armory and moved through the station with new purpose. They were no longer scared children hiding in tunnels. They were soldiers on a mission. And for the first time since the invasion began, Jake felt something other than fear. He felt hope. The squad reached the medical bay just as the first patrol arrived. Jake held up his hand, signaling everyone to stop. He counted the enemies. 6 soldiers, all heavily armed, all confident that they were hunting helpless prey. They had no idea what was coming. Jake looked at his squad and gave them a simple nod. They had trained together for months. They knew each other's movements without needing words. Emma took position on the left, Sam on the right, and Lily covered the rear. When they entered the corridor outside medical, Jake stepped out of the shadows and opened fire. The battle was short and brutal. The aliens were caught completely off guard. They expected crying children or fleeing civilians. Instead, they found 5 determined fighters who shot with accuracy and moved with coordination. Sam's heavy cannon tore through their armor. Emma's precise shots took down 2 of them before they could raise their weapons. Jake pushed forward, driving the survivors back. In less than 2 minutes, all 6 were dead. Jake stood over the bodies, his hands shaking from adrenaline. He had never killed anyone before. None of them had. But there was no time to process what they had done. The survivors in medical needed them. He pushed open the door and found a dozen frightened faces staring back at him. Adults, engineers, scientists, medical staff. They looked at the young cadets with confusion and disbelief. "Who are you?" one of them asked. Jake lowered his weapon and tried to smile. "We are the rescue team. Stay here, lock the doors after we leave." He paused and looked back at his squad. "We are going to end this." Word spread quickly through the ranks. Something was wrong on the human station. Patrols were disappearing. Soldiers were being found dead in corridors. And the enemy doing all this damage was not an elite military unit. It was a handful of children. Jake and his squad had spent the last 3 hours turning Horizon Base into a nightmare for the invaders. They struck fast and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. They used the maintenance tunnels and air ducts to move unseen. They set traps using equipment from the engineering bay. And every time the thought they had cornered the young humans, the hunters became the hunted. Emma had developed their strategy. She called it wolf pack tactics. Never engage in a straight fight. Always attack from unexpected angles. Make the enemy afraid of every shadow and every corner. They were used to conquering planets full of people who surrendered after the first battle. They did not know how to handle an enemy that refused to give up. In the cargo bay, Sam single-handedly held off a squad of 8 while the others escaped through a back passage. He used crates and containers as cover, firing his heavy cannon until the barrel glowed red with heat. When the aliens finally broke through his position, they found nothing but empty space and a greeting message written on the wall in human language. It said, "You are not welcome here." Proved himself in ways nobody expected. The reckless pilot who always took unnecessary risks became calm and focused under pressure. He a maintenance shuttle and modified its engines to run silent. When a group tried to escape back to their ships with captured human prisoners, intercepted them. He crashed his shuttle into their transport and rescued all 12 prisoners before the soldiers knew what was happening. Lily became the eyes and ears of the operation. She hacked into the communication network and learned their language codes. She fed false information to enemy commanders, sending patrols into empty sections of the station while the squad attacked from behind. The aliens could not figure out how the humans always knew where they would be. They started to believe the station itself was fighting against them. But the victories came with a cost. They were all exhausted. Ammunition was running low. And no matter how many they killed, more kept coming from the ships outside. Jake knew they could not keep this up forever. During a brief rest in an abandoned crew quarters, Jake gathered his squad to discuss their next move. Everyone was covered in dirt and sweat and blood. Emma had a cut above her eye that she had bandaged herself. Sam's left arm was burned from a plasma shot that had come too close. Could barely keep his eyes open. Lily was the only one who still seemed alert, but Jake could see her hands trembling as she worked on her computer. "We have killed maybe 50 of them," Jake said. "But there are hundreds more on the station and thousands more on their ships. We cannot win this fight by hiding in tunnels." Emma nodded slowly. "He is right. We have been playing defense. Eventually they will find us and we will run out of places to hide." "So what do we do?" asked. "Surrender." The word hung in the air like poison. Nobody wanted to say what they were all thinking. Surrender meant death. They did not take prisoners. They had seen the proof of that with their own eyes. Lily looked up from her screen. "I have been monitoring their fleet communications. The main command ship is called the Dominance. It is the biggest vessel in their fleet. The general in charge of this entire invasion is on that ship." Jake felt something stir in his chest. It was crazy. It was impossible. But sometimes impossible was the only option left. "If we take out the general, what happens to the invasion?" he asked. Lily thought about it. Military structure is very rigid. They follow orders from the top without question. If the general dies and there is no clear successor, the fleet would be thrown into chaos. They might even retreat while they figure out their chain of command. Sam laughed. It was a tired, broken sound. You want us to attack a battleship full of 2,000 soldiers and kill their general? That is not a plan. That is suicide. Maybe, Jake admitted. But staying here is also suicide. At least this way, we have a chance to do something that matters, something that could save Earth. Emma stood up and checked her rifle. I did not come this far to die hiding in a closet. If we are going to die, I want to die fighting. One by one, the others stood up too. Sam, Lily, they were scared. Jake could see it in their faces, but they were also ready. They had already survived things that should have killed them. What was one more impossible mission? Jake led them to the shuttle bay where a modified ship was waiting. The engines hummed softly as they climbed aboard. Through the cockpit window, they could see the command ship floating in the distance. It was massive, a dark mountain of metal and weapons that blocked out the stars behind it. There is a damaged section on the lower hull, Lily said, pointing at her scanner. It looks like they took fire from the station's defense turrets before they took control. We can enter through there without being detected. Took the pilot seat and started the launch sequence. Everyone strap in. This is going to be rough. The shuttle lifted off and shot out of the station's hangar. Immediately, fighters moved to intercept, pushed the engines to their limit, weaving between enemy ships with moves that would have made their flight instructors proud. Plasma shots flew past the cockpit, missing by inches. One blast hit their rear shields and the whole ship shook. Shields are down to 40%, Lily reported. We cannot take many more hits. Jake gripped his seat and watched the command ship grow larger in front of them. They were so close. Just a few more seconds. A fighter locked onto their tail. Jake saw the weapons charging, ready to fire. There was no way to dodge this time. He closed his eyes and prepared for the end. The shot never came. Had flown straight toward the hull of the command ship, and at the last moment he pulled up sharply. The fighter behind them could not react fast enough. It crashed into the side of its own ship in a ball of fire. "We are here," said, breathing hard. "Everyone out before they realize what happened." They attached to the damaged section and cut their way inside. The interior of the ship was dark and strange. The walls were covered in symbols they could not read. The air smelled wrong, like metal and something alive. Jake looked at his squad, 4 friends, 4 soldiers, about to walk into the heart of an enemy army. "No matter what happens in there," he said, "I am proud to fight beside you." Emma smiled. Sam nodded, gave a thumbs up. Lily whispered something that sounded like a prayer. Then they moved forward into the darkness, ready to face whatever came next. The inside of the command ship was like walking through a living nightmare. The corridors twisted and turned in ways that made no sense to human eyes. Strange lights pulsed in the walls like a heartbeat. Everywhere they looked, there were symbols and markings that seemed to watch them as they passed. Jake kept his rifle ready as he led the squad deeper into the ship. They moved slowly, checking every corner before advancing. The sounds of alien voices echoed in the distance. Thousands of soldiers surrounded them, separated only by thin metal walls. Lily had connected to the ship's computer system through a terminal near their entry point. Her small device showed them a map of the vessel and tracked enemy movements. It was not perfect, but it was enough to help them avoid the main patrols. "The bridge is in the center of the ship," Lily whispered. 5 levels up from here. The general should be there." They climbed through maintenance shafts and empty storage rooms. Once, they had to hide behind a pile of crates while a group of soldiers marched past. Jake held his breath and counted the seconds. They were so close he could smell them, a strange scent like burned copper. After what felt like hours, they reached a corridor that overlooked a large chamber. Jake looked down through a grated floor and saw something that made his blood run cold. Hundreds of stasis pods filled the room. Inside each pod was a human body. Men, women, children, all frozen in some kind of sleep. "What is this?" Sam breathed. Emma gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. "Specimens. They are collecting humans for study. They want to understand us before they destroy us." Turned away from the sight. His face was green like he might be sick. "We have to free them." "We cannot," Jake said. The words hurt to speak, but they were true. "If we try to wake them, we alert the whole ship. Our mission is the general. If we kill him, we save everyone, including them." Emma did not move for a long moment. Jake saw tears on her face, the first he had ever seen from her. She was thinking about her father, about all the humans who had died at hands. Finally, she nodded and stepped back from the railing. They continued toward the bridge. The closer they got, the more guards they encountered. Twice they had to fight. Quick, brutal encounters where speed and surprise were their only advantages. Sam's cannon was too loud for close quarters, so he used his fists instead. He fought with a fury that shocked even his friends. Outside the bridge doors, they stopped to catch their breath. Was leaning against the wall, holding his side. A blade had caught him during the last fight. The wound was deep, and blood was soaking through his uniform. "I am fine," said before anyone could ask. "Just a scratch. Let us finish this." Jake looked at the bridge doors. According to Lily's map, the general was on the other side with at least 20 guards. They were low on ammunition. Half of them were injured. The smart thing would be to retreat, to find another way. But there was no other way, and they were too close to stop now. "Lily, can you open those doors?" Jake asked. "I can, but once they open, everyone inside will know we are here." Jake nodded. "Then we make it fast. Emma, you take the left side. Sam, right side. You stay back and cover our exit. Lily, you come with me. We go straight for the general." Everyone moved into position. Jake took a deep breath and gave the signal. The doors slid open. For one frozen second, every on the bridge turned to stare at the small humans standing in their doorway. Then everything exploded into chaos. Emma fired her rifle in rapid bursts, dropping guards before they could raise their weapons. Sam charged forward like a human tank, smashing through aliens twice his size with nothing but strength and rage. Jake ran toward the command platform, where a massive stood watching the battle with cold, yellow eyes. The general was enormous. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, and his scales were darker than any other Jake had seen. Gold armor covered his chest, and he carried a blade that hummed with energy. He did not look afraid. He looked amused. "A child," the general said in perfect human language. "They send a child to kill me." Jake raised his rifle and fired. The general moved faster than anything that big should be able to move. He deflected the shots with his blade and closed the distance in 2 steps. A massive hand grabbed Jake's throat and lifted him off the ground. "Your species fascinates me," the general said. "You are weak, you are small, your technology is primitive, and yet you keep fighting. Why?" Jake could not breathe. His vision was going dark, but he managed to choke out one word. "Because." The general tilted his head. "Because what?" Jake reached for his belt and pulled out the last grenade. He had saved it for this moment. With the last of his strength, he armed it and pressed it against the general's chest. "Because we do not know how to quit." Emma's shot came from across the room. It struck the general's arm, making him release Jake. The grenade fell and exploded at the general's feet. The blast threw Jake backward into a wall. His ears rang. His body screamed with pain. But through the smoke, he saw the general fall. The commander lay on the ground, his golden armor cracked and broken. Green blood pooled beneath him. He was not dead, not yet, but he was dying. He looked up at Jake with something new in his eyes. Not amusement, not anger. Fear. "You are not like the others," the general whispered. "The other species we conquered, they begged, they surrendered, they gave up." He coughed green blood. "You are different, your kind is different." Jake stood over him, still struggling to breathe. "We are human. We do not give up. We do not surrender, and we do not forget." The general closed his eyes. "Then we have made a terrible mistake." He stopped breathing. Around the bridge, the remaining guards had stopped fighting. They stared at the dead general with shock and confusion. Without their leader, they did not know what to do. Their entire command structure had collapsed in an instant. Jake walked to the main communication console. His hands were shaking, and blood dripped from cuts on his face. But his voice was steady when he activated the ship-wide broadcast. "This is Cadet Jake of Earth," he said. "Your general is dead. Your invasion has failed. Every human you have met today has fought you. Children have fought you, and we have won." He paused and looked at his injured squad. Emma standing tall despite her wounds. Sam bleeding but unbroken. Lily still at her computer, still fighting in her own way, slumped against a wall but giving a weak smile. "Go home," Jake continued. "Tell your people what happened here. Tell them that Earth is not another easy conquest. Tell them that if they come back, every man, woman, and child will fight them to the last breath. We are humanity, and we will never surrender." He ended the broadcast and collapsed to the ground. Emma caught him before he hit the floor. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it." Jake smiled through the pain. "Not yet. We still have to get out of here alive." Bridge of the Dominance fell silent after Jake's broadcast. Soldiers stood frozen at their stations, staring at the dead body of their general. They had conquered 37 worlds across the galaxy. They had never lost a commander in battle, and now their greatest general lay dead at the feet of 5 human children. A new figure pushed through the crowd of guards. He was smaller than the general but still massive by human standards. Gold markings on his armor showed his rank, the second in command of the fleet. "I am commander," he announced. His voice was cold and sharp like breaking ice. "This ship is now under my control. You humans will surrender immediately, or I will destroy you where you stand." Jake struggled to his feet with Emma's help. His body hurt everywhere. His rifle was empty. He had no grenades left, no tricks, no backup plans. All he had was himself and his 4 friends standing in the middle of an enemy army. "No," Jake said simply. His yellow eyes widened. "No, you are surrounded, you are wounded, your weapons are empty, you have nothing left to fight with." "We have ourselves," Jake replied, "and that is enough." Stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned to a soldier at a communication station. "Report. What is the status of our forces on the human station?" The soldier hesitated. "Commander, our patrols are in chaos. We have lost contact with multiple units. The humans on the station are fighting back, even the wounded ones, even the civilians." "And our ships?" Another pause. "Human defense forces are launching from the planet's surface. Every vessel they have, military ships, civilian transports, cargo haulers, they are all heading toward our fleet." Walked to and looked at the space around them. Jake followed his gaze. In the distance, hundreds of tiny lights were rising from Earth's surface. Ships of every size and shape, coming to fight, coming to die if necessary, but coming. "They know they cannot win," said quietly. "Our fleet could destroy them all in minutes. Why do they come?" Emma stepped forward. She was still bleeding from the cut above her eye, but her voice was strong. "Because we do not calculate odds when our home is threatened. We do not ask if we can win. We only ask if we can fight, and the answer is always yes." Turned back to face the young humans. His expression was different now. Not angry, not threatening, almost thoughtful. "We have conquered species across the galaxy," he said. "Species with better technology than yours. Species with larger armies. Species with warriors who trained their whole lives for combat." He paused. "None of them fought like you. None of them sent children into battle and watched those children win. None of them launched every ship they had against impossible odds simply because they refused to accept defeat." Sam stepped forward, his massive frame blocking Jake protectively. Is there a point to this speech? Because if you are going to kill us, get it over with. Almost smiled. Kill you? If I kill you, I make you martyrs. Your people will fight even harder to avenge you. They will never stop. They will follow us across the galaxy if they have to. He shook his head slowly. No, I am not going to kill you. The commander walked to the main communication console. His soldiers watched him with confusion and uncertainty. Nobody moved to stop him. All forces, announced over the fleet-wide channel. This is Commander assuming command. The general is dead. Our invasion has failed. He paused and looked at Jake. All units are ordered to cease combat operations immediately. We are withdrawing from human space. A murmur rippled through the bridge crew. One of the soldiers stepped forward. Commander, we still outnumber them. We can still win this fight. Can we? Gestured at Jake and his squad. These are children, students. They had no real weapons, no experience, no army behind them, and they killed our general in his own command center. They turned our station assault into a disaster. They made our soldiers afraid. His voice hardened. What happens when we face their adults, their trained soldiers, their full military? Nobody answered. We came here looking for easy prey, continued. We found something else entirely, something we have never encountered before. He looked at Jake with what might have been respect. A species that does not understand surrender, a species where even the young are warriors, a species that fights harder when they are losing than when they are winning. The commander walked toward Jake until they stood face to face. Jake refused to step back, even though the alien towered over him. You have won today, young human said. But this is not over. We will return to our territory and report what we have learned. And when our leaders hear about what happened here, they will have a choice. They can send a larger fleet and try again, or they can do something we have never done before. What is that? Jake asked. Seek peace, turn to his soldiers, prepare a shuttle for these humans, return them to their station, and contact the human government, tell them. He hesitated as if the words tasted strange in his mouth. Tell them we request diplomatic negotiations. The next few hours passed in a blur. Jake and his squad were treated for their injuries by medical officers who handled them with surprising gentleness. They were given food and water, and when the shuttle returned them to Horizon Base, they found Captain waiting for them at the hangar. The instructor had recovered consciousness during their mission. He had watched through the station's remaining cameras as his students fought their way through an alien army. He had heard Jake's broadcast from the enemy ship, and now he stood at attention as the 5 cadets walked down the shuttle ramp. Sir, Jake started to say. Captain pulled him into a hug. It was unprofessional and completely against military protocol. Jake did not care. He hugged back. When they separated, the captain looked at all 5 of them with tears in his eyes. I trained soldiers for 20 years. I never trained anyone like you. Behind them, the fleet was already moving away from Earth. Human ships escorted them to the edge of the solar system, ready to fight if the aliens changed their minds. But no fighting was needed. The invasion was over. 3 days later, Jake stood in a grand hall in Geneva. His uniform was pressed and clean, hiding the bandages underneath. Emma stood beside him, along with Sam, Lily, and they had been awarded every medal Earth had to offer. Presidents and prime ministers had shaken their hands. Reporters had asked for interviews. But the moment that mattered most came after the ceremony. A delegation arrived to begin peace talks. Commander was among them. He walked past rows of human soldiers and stopped in front of Jake. You asked me what we would tell our leaders, said. I will tell them that we found a species worth respecting, perhaps even worth calling allies someday. Jake nodded. We would like that, but understand something. If you ever threaten our home again, we will fight, all of us, every human being, until the last one is standing. Showed his teeth in something like a smile. I know, that is exactly why we surrendered. The alien walked away to join the negotiations. Jake watched him go, then looked up at the sky through a nearby window. Somewhere up there, millions of stars were shining. Other civilizations, other species, some friendly, some hostile, some watching to see what these strange, stubborn humans would do next. Nudged his shoulder. So what now? We saved the world. What do we do tomorrow? Jake smiled. He thought about their training, about the fear they had overcome, about the friends who had fought beside him, about a universe that had just learned to take humanity seriously. Tomorrow, he looked at his squad, his family, his fellow soldiers. Tomorrow we go back to being cadets. We train harder, we get better, and we make sure that if anyone else ever tries what they tried, they get the same answer. Emma grinned. And what answer is that? Jake turned back to the window and the stars beyond. Humanity does not surrender. Not today, not ever. He walked out of the hall with his friends beside him, ready to face whatever the universe had planned for them next. They were young. They were just beginning, but they had already proven something important. In a galaxy full of ancient civilizations and powerful empires, the most dangerous thing was not the biggest army or the most advanced weapons. It was 5 human teenagers who refused to give up.